Hi, this is Judy Morio, and this is the World of Book Reviews. And in this segment, we have a wonderful guest, a man by the name of John Polish. John, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And John is a public speaker. He's a dynamic public speaker, and he's an author. And he's written this book called Finding Your Happiness. So tonight, we're going to talk about how you and I can find our happiness. So, John, tell us about your book.
Well, it's a long time in the making. About 25 years ago, I had been going to a lot of public seminars, listening to a lot of speakers, and I was always, I guess, unhappy, always looking for something. And I heard all these speakers talking about, they're basically selling happiness. They were selling hope. And I kept listening to all of them, like, this sounds great, but there's something missing. Like, there's something, it was kind of like, buy from me and be the person you were meant to be. And it didn't matter what they were selling. Like, and I realized all they're really doing is selling hope. I'm like, what is it that really makes people happy? So I spent about 20 to 25 years studying it, not having any idea why until I would need it later. Uh-huh. So what I did about 20 some years ago is I sat down and I took all the different things that I'd learned from these speakers and I put them on Post-it notes and I started putting them on piles of categories and what they had in common. And I came up with 5 different categories. And what I learned from all of them that I could use was this concept of an ideal self and an actual self. And that there's a discrepancy between what we want and what we have. Uh-huh. So in other words, we're not happy when we're not getting what we want out of life. And so I was able to take that concept and break it into 5 different areas that we have expectations in, mm-hmm. and created what I call the personal happiness graph. It's literally a way to put your life on a graph in a couple of minutes and see just how happy you are and in what areas and how to make the shift. Well, that was all great for about 20 years, but it was really nothing more than like a party trick once in a while. I didn't really do anything with it. And then I found myself at my lowest point. I got married about 3 months after I got married. We found out we were expecting a baby. The next day, my mom died of a heart attack.
Oh, no.
So I thought, okay, I lost my mom. At least I'm having, a daughter. Mm-hmm. Then my daughter was born with a genetic disorder, trisomy 18, and she passed away 2 days after she was born.
Oh my goodness.
And then we had a couple more pregnancies that ended in ectopic surgeries, and then finally a divorce, and I found myself just alone and miserable. I thought I was doing okay, but ultimately I wasn't. I noticed that it was surfacing in other ways. I gained it like 50 pounds. I was stressed out, and I found myself alone a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided, I'm like, I have all this head knowledge. I have all this information I've been studying for years, and I really didn't know why I was studying it, other than I knew there was something missing. So I started going every evening and sitting in a coffee shop and writing out my own thoughts and my own ideas and what I had learned from all the studying. And I kind of took the information from the graph that I'd created that I really hadn't even looked at in about 10 years and just started writing it down. And about a week and a half later, I had this book.
Amazing.
What's amazing about it is I didn't know back then why I was studying this stuff.
Exactly.
And it turns out I was going to need it later on.
Exactly.
And I never meant for it to be a book or to be a public speaker or anything. I was just trying to figure things out for myself. Uh-huh. And oddly enough, the book comes out, and I find myself speaking about the book and now doing conferences and everything else, and it's all Finding Your Happiness, which to people who've known me my whole life think it's really funny because I never appeared to be happy at all.
Well, you were finding it.
I was.
And that's why it's a perfect title for the book.
Yeah, and it's amazing because all the information was in my head for 20-some years. I just hadn't applied it. And when I actually wrote it out and started speaking about it, I started applying it. And my life has changed drastically since. So.
But sometimes don't you think it takes a major catastrophe or crisis or the death of like your mom and your child to all of a sudden just slap us right in the face and say, okay, now it's time?
You would think that it wouldn't, but it does. And I've had a couple of those wake-up calls in my life. I had a car accident several years ago where I couldn't walk for a year, and that wasn't enough. And finally, talk about hitting rock bottom, and I didn't think that I was anywhere near rock bottom, but I just knew something was missing. And I sat and it started writing, and it just started coming out of me that now looking back, I can see how miserable I was during that time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the people that were around me could see it too. That's why some of them aren't around me anymore. But
yeah, but sometimes we don't realize it. Life is not easy, and for some reason, when we're growing up, we think that when something happens, life is going to be easier. Like when I get out of high school, it's going to be easier. When I get out of college, it's going to be easier. When I get married, when I get a job, but it doesn't get easier.
So you're exactly right. And in doing this, what I learned was that ultimately, if we look at our ideal self and our actual self, what we have and what we want, there's really only two things we can do in life to find happiness, to become happier. We can either do something different to get what we want, or we can change what we want. And to do something different, I understood because I was an athlete or a coach my whole life. I always knew, if you want something, you work hard enough for it, you can make it happen. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm finding myself in a situation where there's nothing I can do. Didn't matter how hard I worked or what I did. I couldn't bring my daughter back. I couldn't bring my mom back. There was nothing that I could do to change that situation. But what I found was that if I kept wanting that, obviously I want it. I would give nothing.
Right.
If I could have them here today, I would take it in a heartbeat. But I knew that couldn't happen. So to keep focusing on that was essentially a suicide. It was, there was nothing that could change it.
Mm-hmm. And so you had to change your mindset. Right,
and I had to change. What had to change in that situation, it wasn't doing something different to get what I wanted. I literally had to change what I wanted. And so many things have come from that, but the biggest thing was just redefining what I wanted out of life, mm-hmm. and redefining the roles that they played. So I tell people now that, I don't have my daughter with me physically, but I've given her a whole new role in my life. And so she's now the motivation behind my speaking and my writing. And so I kind of joke that every day is take your daughter to work day.
Yeah.
I have her with me always. It's just in a much different way than I would want, but at least she's there and she has a whole different role in my life.
Right. She's in your heart.
Right. And so rather than focusing on what I don't have with her, I'm grateful for the time that I had with her and the blessing that she has provided for hundreds of people since.
Right. And don't you think there's so many people out there that if they could just change their thinking, that they would be so much happier? I thank you for being here with me for this segment. We're going to talk to you some more in just a minute. We're going to talk to John Polish some more, so stay tuned with us. He's written this incredible book, Finding Your Happiness. We're going to find out more about him and the other books he's written in just a minute, so stay tuned.
Are you frustrated and wasting time searching for high-quality education and entertainment and not finding it? Stop wasting your time. We've got your solution. Our 3 dynamic and unique online TV shows provide you with high-quality and easy-to-find content. Everything from business skills and self-development to book and movie reviews and everything in between. At akexpertstv.com, you'll find high-quality experts in their field in one place at no cost to you. Visit www.akexpertstv.com today.